and welcome to Felt Matters, the podcast on all things felting, brought to you by the International Felt Makers Association. And we are your hosts. I'm Vivienne Morpeth, coming to you from sunny Lincolnshire in England.
And I'm Heather Potten in the lovely city of Edinburgh in Scotland. Hello and welcome to Season 4 of Felt Matters, the podcast. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you about the recordings in this season, which will be the last of the podcast in its current form. Over the course of our previous 3 seasons, Vivienne and I have talked frankly and openly about her cancer and how felting has helped her to get through tough times and to stay focused on the here and now, and all whilst going through a succession of treatments. At the end of July, the last of those treatments failed. Vivienne came to talk to the education team, Louise, Helene, Jana and myself, at our annual retreat to tell us the news and to discuss what she wanted to do with the time she has left. Typically, she made us laugh, as she assured us that she didn't want to swim with sharks, but she did want to finish the book she's writing on her signature Nuno-felting techniques and to record a last season of the podcast. So these episodes are a result of our conversations over the past few weeks. The first episode is particularly hard to listen to. We talk about dying. We talk about how she feels about it. We talk about what she's been making in the past few weeks and how she has dedicated herself to finishing her Nuno-felting book. The other episodes focus on felting, our current projects, felting techniques, more details about her book, and her life as a felt maker. It feels right that we continue to be true to ourselves in her final season. I believe that her words are, despite being sad to hear, incredibly inspiring and a celebration of a life well lived. And so, here we are, Season 4, Episode 1. I think this has been one of the hardest things I've ever encountered with a friend, ever. Because I've never been in a situation...
You've never had a dying friend?
No. I've had friends that have died.
Yeah.
But I have never been close to somebody who is in that last stage of life. And therefore, like you say, you know, it's exactly like that when you say somebody's left a job or something like that, and you don't know how to deal with it. And
no, I think it's really hard. And I think they kind of almost like the lead has to come from the person who is dying to give people the confidence and the permission, if that's the right word. Sounds a bit as though they hold the reins, but you know what I mean? They, because I think I imagine myself in that position where you feel as though you're walking on eggshells. You don't know whether to have death jokes or even talk about cancer or talk about pain or talk about the funeral preparations, or whether it's a good thing that you can plan your funeral or a bad thing, or, you know, just how's it going on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that, I think it's got to come from the person that's dying, in the sense of that I feel that if I talk about it, people then realise that I'm comfortable with whatever angle they want to come at it from, because we all come at these things differently. And we all come with our own experiences of death.
Yeah.
And that can be a terrible trigger for many of us, because we do associate all of those sadnesses and grief. But I've had time to process things, so I can talk about things fairly honestly and directly. But I mean, sometimes I cry, but I just say, oh, you know, ignore the tears, because I still want to say these things.
I kind of want to get the hard bit. Well, it's all hard, but what do you think I should do with the podcast?
Well, I think you should continue it and feel able to change it. See, the great thing that we have learned is that because we've done this together and we've learnt together, it's given us this great confidence. And on top of that, you have developed the skills in editing and managing the recordings, and then literally putting it together and putting it out there. So you have the technical skills to do that. I mean, I think we've achieved a lot of what we set out to achieve. We wanted to talk about felting. We wanted to share our joy of just felting in the studios and talking wool, having fun. We wanted to interview other people, other felt makers. And to begin with, we didn't feel able to do that. And then we did. And we did it to such an extent that we really got quite good at it. And we did it separately, and then we did it together. And then we realized that actually quite a lot of our audience they enjoyed our conversations with other felt makers. They loved the, I was going to say the cozy kitchen feel, but it's actually the wet felting studio ambient kind of chat.
So that's the
between
tough
us.
bit. That's the tough bit to recreate, isn't it? Because
it is.
I think you mentioned Rafi suggested I should do it on my own.
Yeah.
I don't think I have enough to say on my own, and you don't get the banter, you don't get the giggles. So I don't know whether, I mean, I think there probably will be a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know whether I would just carry on with like guest hosts or
yes, that's quite a possibility, isn't it? That you could actually work out a list and chat to people and do that sort of every fortnight or monthly or something.
Well, I think if the podcast is to continue, then it continues as Felt Matters. I mean, we've already established a brand.
Yes. Do you think you could you see yourself doing that? Would you have the momentum to do a season, to go back to the kind of the original concept, talking about all these different little aspects that are really important to us as felt makers? You can read an article in the Felt Matters because it's printed, it's set in a framework, whereas a conversation, of course, bursts out of the seams.
Yeah.
And talk, for instance, about, I don't know, merino wool versus Blueface Leicester. I mean, that in itself would be hugely interesting to a lot of people.
I wouldn't know where to start with a conversation.
But you just start with, you use merino wool, and perhaps you teach with merino wool because it's easy for your students to felt with.
You know, when I first started felt making, it actually didn't cross my mind to think about the beast.
Yeah.
It was just the wool. I had no idea. I don't even know what kind of wool I felted with first in New Zealand. I don't know what it was. It wasn't merino. And even when I started with merino, I had seen merino sheep in New Zealand, so I knew what they looked like. But at no point did I really make much connection. And it's only relatively recently since, you know, the working with Mandy, for example, with Alex Bergschaff and the book on the British breeds, and bit by bit, but I can't look at a sheep and go, that's a.
Yeah.
You know, whereas some people who live in Yorkshire probably have got so much more of a connection.
And you're out walking and you're looking at the sheep and you think, oh, what breed is that? You know, it's a bit like bird watching.
Yeah, well, I've never done that ever. So I don't have that depth of knowledge about breeds at all.
And then just working with raw fleece instantly throws you into that. I worked with raw fleeces quite intensely for 4 or 5 years. And it really throws you into what a fleece is all about.
Yeah.
And what you're looking for and the feel of it.
Then you look at Yana. I mean, she's a shepherdess. I mean, so she's immersed in it.
Yes. And she can spot a good fleece.
Yeah.
Whereas we'd be looking to see if it was clean or if it had nice curly locks. But she'd be looking at totally different aspect, you know, as to whether the fibres were strong or how it was sheared and all the rest of it and what age it would be.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, I think
things make a big difference.
That's where, you know, a one-person podcast, it just doesn't work because you've got to.
But you could be the linchpin. You could be the host with lots of different guests talking on different aspects. How do you feel about that? Is that something that you'd like to do? Were you asking me?
Well, yes.
If it was okay to do that.
Well, partly, yes.
Actually, yeah.
Um,
And what about the education team? Would they like to keep it going?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then,
No,
there we are.
absolutely. I mean, it doesn't have to take up that much time. Well, it does.
Yes.
It does. I mean, you plan it, don't you?
It does actually, because then you've got to be available.
Yeah.
Which I've always liked working together because, as I said to you, despite all my hospital appointments and all the rest of it, you've held me to account, and I have needed that. And that the podcast has really grounded me for the last couple of years and given me that sense of fulfillment and purpose.
I think one thing I noticed that when you came to Barmore and Nigel was saying, why is it that you have managed to keep going with the podcast and yet you haven't finished your book? Was he giving you a bit of a rap on the knuckles there?
He's been a brilliant coach for me. So Nigel, when I first met him, he was quite a sportsman, quite a runner, tall, lean, fast. And he's taken that self-discipline throughout his life. He will always get up and go out to exercise. And now he can't run, he cycles. So he employs that sort of sports person approach. And, when you hear people being interviewed, you think, oh, it's down to self-discipline, isn't it? And the team, obviously, you have a support team behind you, but it does come down to routine, self-discipline. And I'm just an ace procrastinator.
Well, I think
and I'm a busy person. When you look at any, let's say, counseling philosophy, then implementing a routine is top of the list of enabling people to kind of get that sense of control. But I think once you've achieved it, and you still maintain that discipline or that routine, that's a different thing working, in my opinion. It gives a sense of fulfillment and purpose. And for many of us, we want to go to sleep at night and know what we're going to do the next morning, because that's what gets us out of bed.
I think also I like to go to bed thinking I've actually achieved something in the day.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if I feel I've just frittered it away, then I get very annoyed with myself.
Yes.
I think, well, that was a waste.
And I used to write loads and loads of lists and have lists everywhere. And I realized that with a good routine, you don't actually need lists. Because,
I still need lists.
Well, I mean, I still have stacks of lists, but you don't need them in the same way, because I was writing lists but not actually ticking a lot off. Were you ticking lots off?
Yes.
My lists were
but
pretty
you get
things.
to the point where you actually write something in at the bottom and then score it out straight away.
I call it cheating.
Well, it is cheating, of course it is, but then you feel better because you think, oh yeah, I forgot to write that. I've just done that. Write it in, score it out. I mean,
but on the training courses, they say, get up, get dressed, have breakfast, sit at your desk. That's 4 things achieved. So, fair enough.
So, so Nigel was saying that you hadn't had the discipline to finish your book.
Oh, he didn't say any of that. So Nigel has always given me space to work, which has been very wonderful. And when I got, I should say, there's that we're talking about something that could be potentially quite triggering, because we're talking about end of life diagnosis. So a lot of this conversation is about the fact that I have now been given, I've had 2.5 years of treatment. I've had 9 different courses of treatment. So I do feel like a cat that's had 9 lives, and I've run out of treatment courses now. And my lymphoma is high grade, very active. And so we're talking about end of life care. So we're talking about trying to squish everything that I want to do in my life into a matter of weeks. So, when I got the diagnosis, and Nigel's been brilliant. He's come along to every consultation with me. So we have gone through this constantly being told that the treatment is failing together. And I said to him, I sat him down and I said, I really need your help to enable me to finish writing my Nuno-Felting book, which I was commissioned to write 3 years ago this autumn. And I had my first payment and installment and book synopsis and everything. And I have been writing but I've been writing in between courses of treatment. And the courses of treatment, of course, chemo really messes with your brain. And it's so time consuming, all those hospital appointments and being sick and being actually ill on a ward for a couple of weeks at a time. So the last 2.5 years have been lurching from hospital to treatment, and as well as having intensive residential treatment needs. So I haven't been able to completely focus and become a disciplined writer. And I needed that. And one of life's ironies is that now that I'm not having any treatment, my brain has suddenly become nicely alert again, is working properly, basically. And so I'm able to implement routine and discipline. And I have written 7.5 chapters out of my 8-chapter book, and just about finished it. So it should be sent off in the next week or so.
So how have you organised your book?
It's divided into 8 chapters, and it's all about Nunnefelting. And it starts at the very beginning of Nunnefelting. It's Nunnefelting in my way, because of course there's many ways of Nunnefelting. And my way of Nunnefelting is to hand dye silk fabrics and to lay them out in a pattern, and then to inlay different coloured wools in between and decorative fibres in the gaps between the silks.
So this piece on the table, is that an example?
Yeah, that is. Except that's another example of another way where there isn't decorative fibre. So this one is, for instance, a load of hand-dyed. I hand-dyed my silks because, and there's a recipe in the book for how to hand-dye silks. Very simple recipe. I hand-dye them because I don't want to work with somebody else's patterns. So although you can Nunnefeldt with recycled, upcycled, beautiful fabrics, my personal choice isn't to work with other people's fabric designs. I want to create my own color palette, because color's one of the most important things to me.
I love the fact you've got velvet here.
Yeah, velvet is a new thing that I've started to work with. So these are strips of fabric that I whipped into almost like ribbons, and then laid them all out as a ribbon, as ribbons, and put wool behind. 2 layers of wool in the traditional opposing angles. Teased out merino wool, and then felted it. And but I felt very slowly, and I've used a very I was going to say thick soap. I'm a bit obsessed about working with olive oil soap, and I allow it to infuse like tea, so that it slows everything down, so that all the fibers can expand and migrate into the silk before the wool felts. So then you get this sort of great adhesion of all the silks. And the silks can be either flat or you can ruche them up. My lovely cousin-in-law came, and together we made this jacket. She came to help me with the rolling and laying out and everything, because of course the jacket is a big thing. This is a seamless jacket with little integrated pockets, but I wanted to show the velvet because I've started to use
the velvet's stunning.
Bits of velvet in it.
And is the velvet just normal flat velvet?
It is normal velvet like this. However, I have used a technique that Nancy Ballesteros suggests on her website, where you actually needle felt into the back of it. So I pull out wisps of fibre, just one row of fibre, and I lightly prod it in.
Right.
So I bought this by the meter from my fabric supplier here in the UK.
So it's just standard. Is it white when you buy it?
It's white, yeah, and it's
wow, lovely.
So it dyes beautifully.
That's very pretty.
It's got a sort of almost like an artificial shimmer on it, but when it's felted,
I love these.
Goes.
I love these.
And in actual fact, I have so I've dyed this with protein dyes. And so some of the dye, of course, comes out because it's got an element of synthetic fibre in it. So it's not actually technically going to hold it when it's hammered with 800 rolls and lots of soapy water. But it's held enough of the colour to give this sort of, lovely thing.
Well, also because that integrates best with the colours that you've got already.
Yeah, and this is a bit of cyanotype.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a piece that Alan and I made.
So it's like a memory jacket as well, isn't it?
Yes, that too, and all previous bits of felt.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I made the second layer is with a merino bat.
Yeah.
So I pulled out sheets, and I had 3 different colours in my stash, and I saved the majority of the grey for the inside so that it was.
And what's the shrinkage for this?
It's about. It varies in actual fact. So when I have a pattern, and this is where I say I've got the pattern in my book, the sort of masterclass in Nina felting book. It is in 2 different rates. So the measurements that you take down the body length multiplied times 1.7, and the ones down around the circumference times 1.6. So the shrinkage is huge because it needs to be a really nice, strong fabric, but lightweight and drapeable.
Can I try it on?
Yeah, that would be really nice. Yeah, please do. Because it's dark colours, people always think it's going to be heavy, but it's actually very light when you wear it.
Did you have a brooch? Or
I did, yeah. Oh, it sits very nicely on collar, yes. Don't know where my brooch has gone, but yeah, with a brooch it would sit very nicely.
Probably a bit narrow on the shoulders for me, but very nice.
Yeah, I did it all to my measurements. Yeah, so it was lovely to wear to our son's wedding. Really nice.
So you've just folded over.
I've just folded it over. In fact, there's one little bit that I need to stitch, but I have just folded it over.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's a good idea.
I didn't want a thick felted collar, and then this is I've put interface with a big length of Marjolan silk from Uzbekistan.
You do know I'm going to Uzbekistan.
No, when are you going?
October.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm going to be buying silk in Marjolan itself.
Wow. So you're going to bring quite a bit back? I
have no idea. It depends how much it costs. But yeah.
Well, presumably it's cheaper than the
I
UK.
would imagine so, yes. If I could add a little footnote here, I'd like to describe Vivienne's jacket in a little bit more detail, as I'm sure you'd like to know more about it. First of all, there will be photographs on our Instagram page so that you can have a look at me modelling Vivienne's beautiful jacket, but I will try to describe it to you as best I can. It was made in order to complement a sheath dress that Vivienne had bought for her son's wedding, which was in a sort of taupe colour. And as she says herself, the colours of the jacket aren't entirely what she tends to do. There were plenty of blues and greys, but there's also a beautiful walnut colour, which is around the cuffs and down the front. And we mentioned the velvet that she's used to decorate that, which has gone into the most beautiful pattern and relief. And the collar that we talked about is also not felted, but rather a folded silk collar, which is attached. And she does mention that it needs a little extra stitch or 2. But that's the jacket. And please do have a look at our Instagram page for a photograph of this wonderful piece of haute couture. I've actually brought a couple of pieces with me to show you.
Oh, brilliant. Great. Let's see them.
And it's interesting because I'm working on, I'll explain what I'm working on now, but these are also Nuno, I guess.
Yes.
My sort of style.
Oh, Heather, that's lovely. So tell me about this.
There was a resist here.
Yes.
And so I intended to cut into it and leave walls around the outside of it. And I only belatedly decided I didn't want that, so I cut it right back to the bone, in which case this hasn't entirely healed. And the opposite of you, I have used other people's silks. So these are all scarves and dresses and all the sort of stuff that I collect in charity shops. And it's now becoming more and more difficult, of course, to find these silks in charity shops because there's so much polyester. I was going to say polystyrene, but it's not that different.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, other fabrics, felt
they do
really well.
They do.
But it's the way that the silk holds the color.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your piece here, the piece we're looking at, is color rich, isn't it?
Yes.
So you've got a beautiful sort of greenish blue with black going through it. I was going to say background, but it's probably the foreground.
Well,
did you do it upside down?
In this case, no. I
did the black down first?
I put 3 layers of black,
right,
and one with the color graded.
Yeah.
But what I do like about this is that because I had done a resist here, which I used plastic for, I think that this has become richer than if I hadn't used it. But I then did another piece, because this is going to be a link. And I want to make a chain.
Yes.
And this is a different way, and I don't think it's as rich.
I like these edges that you described that you cut off, because they look like contour lines. When you're looking on a map and you're looking at a hilltop.
That was the original design, was lots of contours.
Yes.
I started off with the idea of a Skara Brae house from above,
yes,
and then drew around it, and then it started to look like a contour map, which is what my father did. He was a geologist, and he hand drew all these maps, which I wish I kept, but I didn't. And so that inner one there, the colourful one there, is what I used here as the motif, and that big one here is what I used here. And I'm trying at this point, to work out how to join the. I
mean, I don't suppose you have to be literal.
No.
If you're having a chain, you can give the impression of a chain, and then people can imagine the links.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a residency coming up at Craigmillar now for 4 days.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm doing these samples.
But I mean, these are beautiful pieces, Heather, and really, they're standalone pieces as well as pieces that would.
Well, they're sort of if you have an exhibition, then these are the sort of sample pieces that just show how long it takes to get to the point where you want to be. So that's
and the way that you have to work through. I mean, this is what I love about felting, and I talked about a lot of this in my book, because I do go from making flat pieces to making seamless jackets in 8 chapters. And I think what I love about felting is that it is all of these skills. You've got to draw all these skills together. So we're talking about technical skills here, not just making a nice piece of felt, but really pushing it so that it absolutely is the visual picture of what we've got in our minds.
And that's where we'll leave you in this first episode of Season 4. Thank you so much for listening, and do come back for episode 2 of the podcast Where Felt Matters. This podcast is brought to you by the education team of the International Feltmakers Association. Conceived, hosted and produced by Vivienne Morpeth and Heather Potten. Editing by Heather Potten. Music by Artie Williams. Graphics by Rafaela Morpeth.
If, like us, you'd like to hear more from our amazing felting community, subscribe at the end of this episode. It helps other creatives to find us, and each episode will drop into your podcast platform for you to enjoy.